And welcome everyone to game number 1 of the MSL Code Master Semifinals. This is of course the winner's bracket, and we are here on Whirlwind for an epic matchup between the player in the red in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, Jardozer, playing as the Zerg, while his opponent up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, also playing as Zerg, in the light blue, is Kloud. One thing to point out though is Kloud is playing random. So when you play random, it really forces your opponent to keep guessing as they don't know exactly what build to pursue. So at this point in time, I'd say that Kloud probably has a little bit of an advantage simply because he knows it's going to be ZVZ as Jardozer is always Zerg. Now, Whirlwind, it's a very large map. One thing to point out, relatively narrow choke into the natural. Really small choke into the main, so it makes taking this early base quite simple. The problem is, where do you take your third after that? Most players take this here. Another thing to notice is that there's a relatively large amount of space around the outside of the map, a lot of area to harass. So I would not be surprised to see a whole bunch of mutas here in this matchup, and then I guess we'll just get to see if I'm right. So Jardozer, it looks like he's going to be going down with a 15 hatch, probably a 15 hatch, 15 pool. In fact, it looks like that is exactly what both players are doing. Remember, this is a 4-player map, so the players are having to scout to know exactly which position their opponents are in. Right now, we are cross positions. This is the largest map, largest placement on the map, which means this should be a little bit more of a macro game, as the rush distance along the ground is a little bit longer than it would be if they were close positions. Here we go. We have... Ooh, I don't see a pool. There we go. Okay. Both players have their pools down. I thought for a moment that someone didn't have their pool down, and I was a little bit surprised. So, gas. It's both down. It looks like they're both going to be going for Zergling speed at almost the exact same moment in time. And so far, we're looking at mirrored builds. This is pretty good, actually, so far. Everyone likes to see well-executed builds, and I'd like to see and show everyone how similar their resources are and their unit counts are. The biggest difference we have is there's 4 or 5 seconds on the spawning pool. Other than that, everything is almost lined up identically. So ZVZ is a very volatile matchup, and it's one that has so many different things that you can do. At the very beginning of Heart of the Swarm, it was basically Muta-Ling. Mutalisks are now much better than they were in Wings of Liberty. And one of the reasons for that is because they're a little bit faster and they heal much more quickly. And with the higher heal rate, it allows them to be more versatile and more usable. Because previously you could harass with your mutas, and then as they got damaged, you had to kind of leave them in the corner of the map to regenerate or be forced to lose them. Now that's not so much the case, as they regenerate faster than everything else on the map, other than burrowed Zerglings. So it looks like we're going to have a few Lings out of both of these players. We're going to have Baneling Nest out of both of these players, and it looks like we're going to see Ling Baneling, which is always exciting. Still some scouting going on at this point in time. Not too much crazy. We do have some spine crawlers here at the front. An excellent move if you think your opponent is going for Banelings, as you can focus fire down those Banelings with the spine crawler, and they have that additional distance, which really helps things out quite a bit. The unit count, we do have more Lings out from Jardozer, although we do have additional Lings coming out from Kloud. In fact, he's starting to flat out quite a bit more of them. Speed will finish up just a moment sooner for Kloud, about 15-20 seconds. That is a noticeable advantage. However, there's no engagement going to be happening really within that time period. Another thing I'd like to point out, we do have this Baneling Nest here, reducing the surface area on this hatchery. That's another one of those little tiny things that can make a big difference in these higher level games. But so far, look at the army size, still looking very, very similar. Okay, Ling Baneling comes down to who can micro, who has the APM. Right now, whew, Jardozer here pressing me, 234 average APM. That is a lot. And it really comes down to how well can you get those Baneling hits. You can watch the micro going on here. Oh, good job there from Kloud, isolating out that one Baneling, losing a few more Zerglings than he perhaps needed right there. But overall, Kloud, I do feel, got at least map control from that, although he needs to watch out. There's a whole bunch of Banelings. Never mind, map control is now anyone's game. Looking at the army size, it is still in favor of Kloud, but the worker count, I do believe, is going to tell a different story. Exactly. Jardozer has been producing more and more workers, and has been playing with a little bit more defensive banelings. Generally, unless you see a whole bunch of them, you tend to use them defensively rather than offensively. You'll place one or two at the top of this ramp, and another one perhaps a little bit farther back, trying to prevent your opponent from rushing in with all those lings and getting an excellent hit with the banelings on these precious, precious workers. 9 more workers coming out. Definitely macroing up. Kind of interested to see when one of these players is going to be taking another base, as they are starting to float a little bit of money, particularly Jardozer. Is this, here it is. Here's a con. Okay, so far, everything's so good. We have Lair just finishing up for Kloud. That does give him access to a little bit more tech. Gonna see if he goes for anything crazy, and so far, I'm going to say Spire is not necessarily crazy, but the investment in the Spire significantly before his opponent can be very, very devastating. Like I said before, Heart of the Swarm, when it came out, it was mostly Muta Ling. Mutas work better in a Kloud or in a murder of Mutas. Once you get up to around 20 of them, it's really, really difficult for your opponent to deal with that. And having a 50-second lead so far on a hatchery, or on the Spire, could be quite important as the game continues to progress. The other thing is that Zerglings are actually a really important part of a Ling Muta composition. The reason for that is actually quite simple. Mutas, everyone knows they have a bouncing attack. That's common knowledge, everyone knows that. The bouncing attack does half damage every time it bounces, and in Muta versus Muta battles, what ends up happening here... Ooh, are the banelings going to be able to get in? I don't believe they're going to get too many. Oh, they got a pretty decent hit, but I don't think that's going to be able to force this, the Zerglings away. The cancel has been forced. But anyway, so talking about the Muta battles with the Lings on the ground, having more Zerglings than your opponent means that the bounces from the Mutalisk's Glaive Worm attack will actually hit some of those Lings and allow your Mutalisks to reign supreme in the air. So that's a really big deal. I also noticed that we're going to have 8 Mutas on the field before the Spire is even 3/4 of the way done. So depending on how these first Mutas from Kloud work out and what he decides to do with them, and when he decides to show them, this could significantly change the game. As right now, Kloud is definitely up in supply, but now they are getting scouted. That's got to be a little bit frustrating for him. He was on his way over to go attack. He's going to be cleaning out some Overlords across the map. But as they have been scouted, now his opponent should have time to prepare for it. I'm actually really surprised we're not seeing any sort of Spore Crawler at all. However, Jardozer has now been stockpiling all that gas and is indeed going to be building his own Mutas. In fact, it looks like he's going to have the Muta lead once those Mutas pop out. And if he's not careful, Kloud's not careful, he might lose all these Mutas here. And that, every single Muta in these Muta versus Muta battles are so important. Absolutely vital. He's getting a lot of good worker kills here, but he needs to be careful about all of these Mutas that are now on their way. As soon as they pop up, he's going to try to isolate some of those and take those out, and it's going to be a little bit dangerous. He's got to get those Zerglings underneath there to help tank some of that damage. The Banelings going down. It looks like he's going to be able to escape with most of his Mutas, and looking at the Muta count, we have 15 to 17. Jardozer is in the lead, but ever so slightly. The Zerglings on the ground trying to make some sort of counterattack happen. But the big news here is that this group of Mutas here, there's more Mutas on the map for Jardozer than there are for Kloud, and there's no Queens here to reinforce. So it looks like this base will be canceled yet again with no other units on the ground to help tank some of that damage. It looks like, wow. I'm surprised he didn't actually commit more, but here come the Zerglings making that counterattack happen, getting a surround on that Queen, and taking out a large number of drones. Looking at the workers killed. Nine drones, not bad. It's nothing to sneeze at. Continue. You got to watch that Muta count. 18 to 19. Everyone's squeezing all the last gas that they can get out of this base. And the fact that Jardozer has this other base up and running and has been continually denying his opponent his third base, I think that's actually going to be the very telling result here towards the end of the game. As you need so much gas to get a decent number of Mutas out, and with Banelings on their way as well, if being down 2 gas geysers is significantly impairing your ability to produce both of those gas-heavy units. So, excellent spotting here from Jardozer to try to make sure that his opponent doesn't do something absolutely crazy. Having some additional little engagements here in the middle of the map. It's a little bit of a dance. The Zerglings want to take out the other Zerglings, but neither of them want to get in range of the other's Mutas. It's 22 to 26. The Muta lead is still in favor of Jardozer. In fact, now the supply count is also in the lead for Jardozer. And it's looking like Jardozer is in a pretty good position at this point in time. The food count difference is only 20 at this point. But 20. Once you have an advantage, you can continue pushing that advantage until your opponent can no longer gain an advantage. And I'm fearing for Kloud at this point in time, wondering what he can pull out of his hat to be able to really save him in this game. Looks like we have a giant murder of Mutas coming in here. He's going to take out some Overlords and then retreat, as he's going to try to get a good surround on some of these units up here. Excellent hits from those Banelings there. That is a lot of Zerglings off the map. And that's actually a pretty big problem. But at 32 to 25. Ooh, doesn't want to take the engagement there with that small number of Mutas. He needs to engage with everything. The only other thing he can do there is try to lead those other Mutas astray. While he's going to try and DPS down this hatchery, and it looks like he is going to get it, but I think at what cost? I think he's going to take pretty heavy losses. Yeah, check it out. All the way down. He's now almost half the number of Mutas of his opponent. While Spore Crawlers are quite good against Mutas at this point in time, they actually received a buff to try to counteract this Muta versus Muta play to make them to make them a little bit less overpoweringly, I guess, powerful. They do plus 15 damage. They 3-shot Mutas now, but 1 Spore Crawler is not going to be enough to deflect 35 Mutas. I've done some math in my head, and that's just not going to work out. 11 to 35, 151 supply to 94. Unless Kloud does something absolutely insane, I don't see him being able to come back into this very easily. There are 2 more Spore Crawlers finishing up. They're going to get some decent damage here with some Queens, but I don't think Jardozer is going to worry about that at all. It did buy him a little bit more time for mining, but at this point in time, there's this huge murder of Mutas, and it's how in the world is he going to be able to deal with that? They're taking down all of his Overlords. He's going to be supply blocked here in a little while if he keeps this up. A whole bunch more of those Spore Crawlers not able to get down, and that the Spire is actually under threat as well. And there's just nothing here to prevent Jardozer from doing whatever he wants in this part of the base. He's going to be focus firing down some additional Spore Crawlers, trying to make something happen. In the meantime, looks like Kloud is doing a little bit of his own damage. He's going to get over here and take out an additional base. But the real problem, this is a threat, but I think there's enough forces on the ground from his opponent Jardozer that's not going to be a huge problem. Some links of Jardozer's coming in, taking out these Spore Crawlers, allowing those Mutas a little bit more free reign in the area. And now with those Lings on the field, this could get a little bit ugly. We do have some Zerglings going to take out this base as well. This is getting a little bit crazy. Okay, now it's 1 base to 2 bases, but nothing really mining for Jardozer. Here comes a big engagement. The Zerglings taking out the Spore Crawlers immediately. The Lings on the ground for Kloud are just not enough in number. He's going to try to make some Banelings here to reduce that Zergling count. But overall, I think Jardozer's definitely got the advantage at this point in time. A bunch of really ugly Overlords hanging out here by the Xel'Naga Tower. Okay, taking stock of the situation, we have nothing in production for Kloud. We have, actually, surprisingly, a relatively even number of workers. 32 to 44 is not even by any means, but they've both done pretty significant damage to each other. Jardozer, however, has had a lot better opportunity to rebuild and recollect himself. If he's not careful, he's going to lose some of these buildings without creep. Some additional larvae are going to die as well. But the real big thing is he's got 1 full mining base, whereas Kloud is down to just 1 mostly dead base, and almost no resources there. He is continuing to expand back to his natural, but with the Mutas being a constant threat, there's not really too many places he can go, and once those workers are sniped, there's not much that he can do to get back into the game. We have an engagement. We should have an engagement. The Banelings are going down. Mutas ignoring each other. The Mutas here are going to be taking everything out, all the drones, And it looks like we're going for a little bit of a base race. We have a whole bunch of Zerglings and some Mutas coming down here for Kloud. And it looks like Jardozer is not willing to commit to that base race. He knows that he's got a lead, and he does not want to lose everything back at home. So now we're going to have another engagement here. Some of those Mutas going to be taken down on the fly, making things a little bit more equal. But it's still 19 to 31. That extra gas income from that additional base that he had for so long is a really big problem for Kloud to deal with. You can't stop in micro, as he's going to lose everything if he stops at all. It's just going to continue chasing these units northward, and as soon as they try to turn, yeah, so a whole bunch of them are going to start going down as soon as they get 1 or 2 volleys off. Oh, that's so painful. 32 to 16 mutas, 15 mutas, 14. Also, I'd like to point out that mutas, if you micro them correctly, you click, 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 and then click on something to attack and continue moving, they don't actually stop. They don't do any sort of a deceleration, and so that's how he's able to continue attacking and following. So that's just a little pro tip for anyone out there. So excellent game. Started out really even, a little bit of back and forth, but I think the main thing that happened there was that Jardozer kept denying that third base of Kloud. And without that additional gas income, without that additional mineral income, Kloud just wasn't able to get enough units out on the field to deal with that murder of mutas. So excellent game, and we're going to go into game 2 here in just a moment.